Okay, we're looking at perpendicular bisectors, medians and altitudes. So taking the first one, a perpendicular bisector, we need the midpoint and the perpendicular gradient. For the median, here, median, we need the midpoint and the opposite vertex. And for the altitude, we need the perpendicular gradient and the opposite vertex. So just reminding you, midpoint, x1 plus x2 over 2, y2 plus y1 over 2. And remembering for perpendicular gradients, m1 times m2 equals -1. So taking our first example. So we've got A is 1, 3, B is 5, -7. Find the equation of the perpendicular bisector of AB. So thinking about it from the previous page, we need the midpoint and the perpendicular gradient. So we find the gradient of AB, x1, y1, x2, y2, plug them in and get our gradient. Remember, flip it, change the sign. So our perpendicular gradient will be 2/5. Our midpoint, we add x1 add x2 over 2, y1 add y2 over 2. So we get 6 over 2 and -4 over 2. So we get 3, -2 as our midpoint. So putting our equation together, we need a gradient and a point. We have our gradient, we have our point. So our gradient is 2, 5. Our point is 3, -2. So y minus b equals m bracket x minus a. Times through by 5 to clear that fraction. 5y plus 10 equals 2 brackets x plus 3, x minus 3. Multiply out the bracket and then rearrange, bring the 5 over, 5y over, take the 6 back. So you've got 2x minus 5y equals 16. Now for every triangle this is true. The perpendicular bisectors are concurrent. Concurrent mean they meet at the same point. So the point they meet at is called the circumcenter. The medians, they are also concurrent, and the point they meet at is called the centroid. And the altitudes are also concurrent. The point they meet at is called the orthocenter. And in an equilateral triangle, they will meet at the circumcenter, centroid, and orthocenter are all the same point. So, this is an exam type question. So the vertices of triangle PQR are P, which is 3, 6, Q, which is 0, 3, and R, which is 4, 3. We want to find the point of intersection between the median PM and the altitude Rn. So for PM, we're looking for a median, so we need the midpoint and the opposite vertex. For Rn, it's asked for the altitude, so we need the perpendicular gradient and the opposite vertex. So what I've done is a wee sketch. So here, the midpoint of QR going through P, so that's got to be PM. And here, perpendicular, opposite vertex. So N is the point on PM. We don't need to find it. We just need the perpendicular gradient and R. So looking at PM, we need Q and R because we need to find the midpoint. So we find the midpoint of QR, which is that, which is M. We then need to find the gradient and a point. So we've got M and P are on our line up here, M and P. So plug it in, get our gradient. Our point, we can use P or we can use M. Plug it into the y minus b equation. Rearrange. Remember how I said it's usually useful to put it in this form? We're going to do simultaneous equations at the end, so let's put it in that form. So now we're looking at Rn. So Rn, looking at the picture, Rn is perpendicular to Pn going through R, PQ going through R. So we need P and Q, so we need the gradient PQ, and then we need the perpendicular gradient. So our gradient and our point, our perpendicular gradient is -1. Our point R, which is 4, 3, we plug it into our y minus b equation and we rearrange to get it into the same form as we had the other one. Now we're doing simultaneous equations. So here, 3x minus y equals 3, x plus y equals 7. The y's are the same, there's a sign change, so we can add the equations. So when we add the equations, the y's go poof. So 3x add x is 4x, 3 add 7 is 10. So 4x equals 10, divide through by 4, x equals 10 over 4, which is 5 over 2. You'll notice we tend to leave higher things in fractions rather than going to decimals unless it specifically asks for the decimal. So plugging it back into one of our original equations, so we've plugged it back into the second one here, rearrange and we get y equals 9 over 2. So the point of intersection, sometimes you'll see me shorten it to the POI, is 5 over 2, 9 over 2.